I'm sad today. And I'm sad because I had these really awesome pygmy palm trees in my backyard, kind of crowning the sides of my pool, and over by my jacuzzi. Kind of have my jacuzzi hot tub kind of tucked in behind these really awesome pygmy palms. These like multiple branched, pygmy palms, just awesome. And a couple weeks ago, I noticed that the shoots coming out of the tops of these pygmy palms were turning brown, and I thought, that's kind of weird. Well, sure enough, they stopped growing, and not only did they turn brown, but they completely died. And I thought, that's just strange. Just a couple of, like one pygmy palm that this was happening on. So I call a tree guy over to the house. And the tree guy comes over and he says, this tree's dead. I said, what do you mean tree's dead? I'm like, it's got green branches growing all over the place. He goes, yeah, but the heart is dead. The shoots coming out of the middle, or if they're brown, that means the heart is dead. The tree's dead. It's just a matter of time. These green branches will turn brown, and then you might as well cut it down now. It's done. And I said, well, how's that possible? This tree is green and flourishing and looks fantastic. And he said, oh, well, hang on, let's go over here and look at these. He goes over to some other pygmy palms. He goes, yeah, these are done too. I go, what do you mean? The shoots aren't even brown. He goes, yeah, but see how they're stalled out? They're not growing anymore? Watch this. He grabs them and just goes, and it comes right out. And the roots of these shoots, when he took them out, were black and rotted on the bottom. He says, yeah, the center of this thing is shot. It's the heart is dead. The tree is just a matter of time. This one's going to turn brown. And all in all, I lost 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 pygmy palms, and the jury's still out on about 10 others, or whether or not they're actually going to make it or not. And this is blowing my mind, because I'm looking at these trees that look healthy, they're full, there's greenery everywhere, and it's only because this guy understands these things and how they grow that he was able to tell me, these are done. And the little shoots that were sticking out that weren't growing, he could tell they hadn't been growing, and he says the reason why the growth is stalled out is because the tree is dead, and he just pulls them right out. They just come right out because the whole center of the thing was rotted. And I says, well, how does this happen? How do these seemingly healthy, wonderful trees just suddenly turn up dead? And he said, well, let me show you. And he takes one of the branches and he flips it over to the bottom. He shows me, and there's this what looks like a white residue on the bottom of these leaves. And he says, these are actually mites. They're actually bugs that eat this plant, and they go down into the heart of the plant, and they eat at the roots, or they eat at the actual young shoots as they're coming up out of the plant. And it stresses the plant so much, it stresses the tree so much that eventually the tree can't keep up. It's continuing to bring water up, but it can't push the growth out the top fast enough, and it eventually just kind of rots. It just kind of wet rots itself until the tree is just dead, and everything inside of it is just rotten. And that's why you can just pull the branches, the half-grown branches, right out of there, and they just come right out, because the whole inside of the tree is just rotted and it's dead. And what killed it were these bugs. And I said, well, I just don't understand how a tree can go from perfectly healthy to a week or 10 days later dead. And he goes, oh, these trees haven't been healthy in a long time. He said an insect infestation like this doesn't just happen like that. So I lost 7, maybe 10, maybe 12, maybe 15 trees, really beautiful palm trees, because they had a disease. But I wasn't aware of it, because there was no evidence on the outside to show me. And this got me thinking about you and I. You see, sometimes we have a disease of addiction, or a disease of lying, or a disease of procrastination, or a disease of lack of work ethic, or a disease of dishonesty, or a disease of cutting corners, or any number of things. We have an infestation, if you will, of bugs, right? We're all bugged, by the way. Every one of us is faulty in any number of areas. And I don't claim to be perfect by any stretch of the imagination, right? But sometimes what happens is we have this disease that's killing us from the inside. And it's not evident necessarily on the outside. And that's why you may look healthy, feel healthy, nothing wrong with you. And then 1 or 2 small symptoms show up, you go to the hospital and find out you have a much, much, much larger problem health-wise, because it's been going on the inside It just hadn't manifested on the outside. And the same can be true in our business or in our finances. We can be driving fancy cars and living in a nice house, and everything looks hunky-dory. But if you look on the inside, you see that it's very unhealthy, with no savings, no retirement plan in place, nothing like that, spending every dollar that's coming in. So the inside now is very unhealthy, although it looks just fine from the outside. The challenge is that eventually that problem on the inside will manifest on the outside. So what we find is that our habits, or our accepted, repeated behaviors, the behaviors that we accept from ourselves on a repeated basis, formulate our habits. And some of those habits can be like a disease, killing our goals and our dreams and our ambitions from the inside out. And although the evidence of those habits may not be showing now in your outside world, in your results, or in your health, or in your fitness, or in your wellness, or in your marriage, they are rotting the heart of that relationship, or that goal, or that ambition nonetheless. And so here's what we must do. You gotta kill the bugs, right? Here's what we did with the trees. Went and got some insecticides. We sprayed all the trees. We got rid of the bugs. We had to do 3 or 4 different treatments. So like to smother them and to make sure that they don't breed. We had to kill it with a 2-phase insecticide and do it. And we had to do some soil conditioning to try to save the trees. What we're doing is we're getting rid of the bugs. Because if you get rid of the bugs before the tree is dead, you can save the tree. And if you can get rid of the habits, or if you can get rid of the destructive behaviors before it manifests in your outside world, you can save that goal, you can save that ambition, you can save that relationship, you can create a magical, masterful life. And it's changing behaviors now, while it's just a bug infestation, that will prevent you from losing the whole tree down the road. But how many of us have seen folks who have tragedy strike in their lives because the small accepted behaviors that they dealt with for so long never caused any bad things to happen on the outside, so they thought, until it was too late. But that's not for you and me, because we know, don't we? We know how these things happen. We've seen the pygmy palms and what happens to them, right? So we know that we can isolate those behaviors that are positive in our lives, that are causing us to move in the right direction. We can also isolate those behaviors that are not moving us in the right direction. The bugs in our life, if you will, and we can kill those bugs and save the tree of our goals, or our ambitions, or our relationships, or our health, or our wellness, or whatever it is we're going after. Isolate those behaviors that are not taking you where you want to go. Kill them. That's the dose, guys. Let's go make it a great week.